having me. So I am founder of Coachbox.ai. We make AI versions of coaches and consultants so that they can use more of their coaching superpowers and use AI to do all the stuff that they don't want to do, but in their unique style, using their unique content that they probably created over hundreds and hundreds of years, it might feel like for some of them. I am a senior contributor for Forbes, where I write about AI, entrepreneurship, and lifestyle design. I am a digital nomad, so I don't have a base camp. I travel for between 1 and 3 months at any given time. I've lived in 35 different cities. I also compete internationally in powerlifting, so the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. And I used to have a social media agency that I built and sold over a 10-year period. One of the main reasons I was able to build it and run it as a lifestyle business and then sell it was that I systemized it like to within an inch of its life. So I'm a very, very big fan of systemizing, delegating, automating, which is where all my worlds collide.
So we definitely are in the right conversation, because both your world and our world at Whale is all about systemization. Before we get to that, and I just thought of like 5 questions I want to ask you off the bat, but I'm going to start with the first one is, how come you think you've succeeded, and why do people fail in running businesses?
I mean, I don't know that I've fully succeeded. I think I'm tending towards succeeding, but my goalposts change all the time, as I imagine everyone else's do. I think that I feel like I succeed when I define what success looks like for me, and then when I stay on track to that version of success, and I don't listen to anyone else's versions because it just doesn't make sense to. And with that in mind, I'd say the number one reason entrepreneurs fail, and this is from being friends with entrepreneurs, from coaching entrepreneurs, from being one myself, it's just simply lack of focus. I think that they could have the plan and they know the plan, and if they just kept going with that plan, and I'm including me in this, like every time I've done something wrong, it's been because I've deviated from the original plan. But if they just carried on with the plan, it would all work out. And I found this out the most when I was in between businesses. So I'd sold my social media agency. I was trying to figure out what to do next, but I was not putting pressure on myself to figure out what to do next, because I'm so aware that if you've got this insanely high work ethic, the worst thing you can do is pick the wrong thing and just go forward with it, because you'll just continue going forward without knowing if it's right. And I did not want to get in that situation again. While I was in between businesses, I was coaching or mentoring other agency owners who wanted to sell their agency, because a big measure of success for me is doing cool stuff and then teaching other people how to do that same cool stuff. So it made sense. I'd sold my agency, now I could teach people how to do it. And I see people every 2 weeks or every month, and we'd come up with a plan together on the session. They'd know exactly what they needed to do. And then when I'd speak to them again, I'd be like, how are you getting on with this plan? And they'd be like, oh yeah, well, I was doing that. And then I read this book and it told me I should do this other thing. Or I watched this YouTube video and this guy told me this other funnel that I should do, or something different. And I'd just be like, why aren't you just doing the plan? Like you know what you need to do. And it was just purely a lack of focus. And I would say that time and time again, that's exactly what holds people back. And it's so unbelievably simple.
I mean, it's easy to see why entrepreneurs get distracted by all the shiny things that come their way. How does systemization help that? Like you mentioned, systemization being so important.
I think it's all to do with where the plan sits in your mind. I think for me, if I've got something that I want to achieve and I can't see, I mean, I don't need the whole route to getting there. I just want the first few steps, or at least want to know what I'm doing this week towards it. Because if you don't have that, it can feel quite fluffy in your head. It can feel like almost like a squiggle in your head. And I think the systemization helps, because that's the thing that turns it into straight lines, or it turns it into a ladder, or it turns it into some kind of shape that makes it seem more manageable. And then you can just see where you fit into that plan. So when I sold my agency, I didn't really know how someone would go about selling their agency, because I didn't really know anyone who'd done it before. But then when I decided that that's what I was going to do and I was going to figure it out, the first plan became, I need to speak to someone who's done it. And then as soon as I spoke to someone who'd done it, they told me their plan. And then that didn't necessarily become my plan, but it became a route forward that I could adapt. And then when I when I spoke to them, they introduced me to a broker who sold agencies. And then when I spoke to him, because he'd done it so many times before, he just knew the plan. So it was like he had his system that I was just fitting into. So then it was like, okay, we're going to create a one-pager for your business. Then we're going to introduce you to potential buyers. You're going to have first meetings. Then you're going to have second meetings. Then you're going to get offers. Then you're going to negotiate. Then we're going to complete. And so every single one of those 6 steps had its own system as well. So then I just had to figure out how I fit in with that system. And all of a sudden, this mess, this squiggle, this really confusing situation made so much sense purely because it just had a system behind it. And I feel like that could work with any part of your business, from sales to selling it to hiring to just anything. And everyone benefits from those systems.
Absolutely. We always talk about moving from chaos to clarity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because it is, I mean, entrepreneurship in itself is chaotic, but there are ways of bringing clarity to the process of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AI in the mix. I think on every person's mind is, okay, like, what for the future? I mean, you've started a business.
Okay. So in my business, coaches who are very good at what they do, and they probably have clients who are very pleased with their work. They love coaching. They love spending time with people. They love helping people through challenges, but they really want to make more impact because they know that their work can help people. They use all their past work to make the AI version of them that then coaches in their style, but as an AI. So they don't use it to replace them, at least not for their clients who are paying them, but they use it as maybe a lead magnet on their site where it sits on their homepage. They collect email addresses, and then people who could become their clients go through, they get a taster of their coaching, they build familiarity with them because they see their style and their frameworks and their methods within the AI. And then those people are then on their mailing list, so they can nurture them along, they can add more value, and they can invite them to a call or something to get even closer and to potentially become clients. So the AI side of it is the predictive, is the chat interface. Essentially, it's the I know all this, I've got this bank of information, I've got all these questions and these coaching topics that this client wants to talk about. So how do I predict what could come next based on this past experience of the coach? So it's very cool, but it's also a very simple application of the technology, because it just kind of doesn't need to be complicated. It's like we can just we don't have to use every AI tool out there, because that's another example of shiny object syndrome, of just starting every free trial and then not really having a plan. And I did this myself. I started a bunch of different AI tool trials, but often they were for things like, one was for making TikTok videos. I don't even have a TikTok account, but it was a shiny object and it looked really fun. But then as soon as you realize, no, I don't need to start all these trials. I don't need to just go off in all these different directions. I need to look first at my business and what I want to achieve. And then I want to find tools that match that. Then it just all makes sense. And that's very much what we teach with our coaches and consultants that join Coachbox. It's like, forget the doing what everyone else is doing and getting distracted. Look at your business, look at where your gaps are, and then find the tools that fit in with that, so that your business grows, your impact grows, but you don't feel frazzled and you don't have to work anymore.
I think there are a number of differing reactions to AI. One is like, okay, it doesn't exist, I'm just going to ignore it for now. Another one is, oh my gosh, my business is no longer valid. Or see, okay, I have to now adopt every AI tool, as you've said, on the planet. What is the healthy entrepreneur's approach to AI and automation in 2025?
Oh, what a question. The healthy entrepreneur's approach to AI and automation in 2025 comes with a matrix that I call the Superpower Matrix. And so up the y-axis, you've got enjoyment. So put all the stuff you enjoy goes right at the top. All the stuff you really hate doing, but you have to do because it's a necessary evil, or it has to be done in your business, goes at the bottom. And then on the x-axis is proficiency, from not very good at all to really good, really amazing. This is totally my jam. And then you imagine with that matrix, it comes up with 4 quadrants, and then you can plot every single thing that you do in your business onto that matrix. And then in the top right, that stuff that you love doing, that you're amazing at doing, that's your superpowers. So that's the stuff to keep hold of. And that's the stuff to keep matched, aligned with your human genius, and then look at the rest of the matrix for doing everything else. So in the middle of the matrix is the stuff that you're kind of all right at doing and you kind of all right like doing. We call this the danger zone, because this will be things that you will do, but they will take so much longer than you think they're going to take, and you put up with it because it's not painful enough to change it. And for so many coaches and so many consultants and so many founders, this is marketing, or this is creating content, or this is all the stuff that they actually really don't mind doing, but it just takes a long time. And so this is where it's like, can you get AI assistance with this? So maybe you don't delegate it completely. Maybe it's not that you're completely automating everything, but how much can you get assistance so that you are spending the top 20% on it and not the 80% that takes away from your superpowers? And then in the bottom left of this matrix, you've got the kind of poop corner where you don't like it and you're not very good at it, but it's some kind of necessary evil in your business. And so that's where to look at first for delegating, automating, eliminating. It could be a person. It might be that there isn't an AI tool that even does that thing, in which case there is someone out there who loves the jobs you hate and you just have to find them. And my VA, my general manager, they all love the jobs I hate, and I do not understand them, and they do not understand me, but it doesn't matter because we work very, very well together, and we can appreciate that we just have different preferences. And then what I would also do is I would empower those people who are doing the jobs that you hate to find AI tools and find technological ways of doing those jobs, because the message to them is, I don't just want you to stay in that corner. I want your role to be ever expanding, ever growing, because you're learning how to kind of clone yourself as well from like a administrative side. So when this works, it's beautiful, because you can do everything that's in your superpower matrix. No one else feels that they're getting fobbed off with all your rubbish tasks. They're actually empowered to find solutions to make everything all work better. So that's how.
Yeah, that's actually amazing that you've spoken about that. And you said it doesn't have to be an AI tool. It can be a person. It can be a process. We call this at Whale a flywheel. Like the more you put this into action, the faster things grow. And then the faster things grow, the more you empower your teams. And then the more you empower your teams, the faster things grow. And then kind of, I mean, of course, that's the ideal picture, but it is about using the process you've mentioned to basically give yourself the best possible path to success and growth.
Yeah. And only do stuff that you want to be doing, that you love doing. Like in my dream world, I wake up each day, I do some writing, I do some filming, and I know that my business is growing because the funnel works. I know that it's all been taken care of because someone else is in charge of that. I know that all the AI tools that I've got in place that are all working. And then you just go train the rest of the time and you go kind of enjoy life at the same time. So I think that's the dream. And I feel like every single entrepreneur, founder, CEO has got their version of that. It's just firstly defining it and then putting it into place.
I love that. Let's talk about the dream of the entrepreneur and why they are their own worst enemies in the dream. Why is that?
Entrepreneurs are their own worst enemies because so it's an Andy Warhol quote, and it was, if I could hire anyone, it would be a boss, because he knows that he can be all of these things that founders can be, which is erratic, emotional, up and down, bit crazy, unreasonable, all of these things. But he wasn't just like that with other people and with his work. He was like it with himself, and we probably all can be like that. So probably, I know I've had this before, if you're going to take a day off, you almost feel like you're explaining it to yourself, because you're justifying it to yourself. Because if it was explaining it to someone else, it would be easy because you could create the narrative around it. But then you're there in your head, you've got the two sides. And so you might feel like you're fighting those two sides. So I think it's real.
Yeah. And it's the work smart versus work hard. I think entrepreneurs often probably feel like if they're not hustling and not sweating and not working 16-hour days, then things are not happening. But Yeah, carry on.
I feel like one big thing is this idea of earning rest or earning something, because I quite like the idea that you've earned something. So this Christmas just gone was actually the first one probably in my whole career of being a business owner that I didn't work in the holidays. And I say didn't work, like I wrote every day and I did some stuff every day, but it wasn't like work. Whereas ones before I've been like, no, this is where I get ahead. This is where I do the stuff. But I feel like so much of it was because of creating the systems that meant that my company was growing and stuff was happening before. So it was more like an experiment of seeing these systems that I've just set up in November and the start of December, do they carry on working when I'm not working? So it was like a real test. But I like the idea that everyone could now use AI to get to that stage so that when you rest, it's not just, oh, I'm resting and I'm not working and nothing's growing.
Right.
It's also, I'm testing the systems that I've put into place to see if they actually stand up. And when I was coaching agency owners of how to sell their agency, they were all very adamant that when they sold, they didn't want to do an earn out. So they didn't want to go with the business and run it while someone else owned it. And my handover took 2 weeks, but agency average is 3 to 5 years. And it was because of systems. But when I spoke to them about it, I'd be like, okay, so if you're going to sell, that new owner wants to know that everything's not going to go all crumbling down when you leave. So when's the last time you did not work for 2 weeks? And they're like, oh, well, never. And it's like, well, you can't do that then. You have to set up the systems and then you have to test them. And I think Christmas is such a good time to be able to do that. So maybe there's just a different way of framing rest and framing not working in your mind. So it's not just, oh, I'm not working and nothing's going forward. You've still got that sense of momentum.
That's amazing. That is such a brilliant point that you make. And that's absolutely insane that you left after 2 weeks. That's crazy. And just because of systems. Like I think entrepreneurs think of systems and they're like, oh, okay, like I know I need processes, and they see it more of kind of a drudge task or this thing I kind of have to do.
Yeah.
But when you put it like that, you actually translate it into the value. And this is actually going to mean X. This is X time saved, like 5 years down to 2 weeks. Like, do you want that?
Yeah. Yes, please. Because how I think of it is every entrepreneur, founder, CEO, they're probably in that position because they are a visionary, but they never get a chance to use their visionary superpowers because they're so bored with the day-to-day and they're so in the day-to-day and they don't even realize that they're not using hardly any proportion of their brain because they never have the space to think. So my goal in any business is to basically do myself out of a job, like not have a job because there's nothing for me to do because everything is either someone else or it's a system. I was mentored once by a CEO who never wrote anything down. He made a point of not writing anything down because he's like, why would I write anything down? I shouldn't need to do anything. My job is to think. It's someone else's job to write it down. It's someone else's job to follow up. And I really like the audacity. I have that in my head a lot. Like, no, I'm not going to write it down. You're going to write it down. And then, so yeah, it's to become as visionary as possible by clearing the space. But I think that has to be coupled with not only you having that intention yourself, but your team members having that intention for you. So the person who runs Coachbox, she also ran my social media agency. She went with the company that bought us. She stayed there for 2 years. And then she was looking to leave. And as soon as I would never have poached her in a million years, but when she was looking to leave, she was fair game. So then I asked her if she would join Coachbox, and she said yes. So now she is part of my team again, which is awesome because we work really well together. But part of the reason that we work really well together is because she doesn't try to just pile stuff up on my plate. She tries to clear my plate. Like her job is to put me out of a job so that I can think and come up with the ideas that are then going to grow the company. So it needs to be a whole team alignment thing. It can't be that you at the top has this goal to not do anything apart from use your visionary nature, and everyone else's job is to go, you don't look busy enough. You should do this, because then you're just going to be fighting with each other the whole way, and then that doesn't work either.
Yeah, that's so true. And you've touched on 2 points. One is the importance of team, and I think like part of the systems is really empowering your team to work, like really giving them the best possible chance, and yourself and the business as a whole, because it's a system in itself. a chance of success. Tell us in 2 minutes about like learning culture, or how does that work with systemization of a business?
One of the things that we have in place at Coachbox is everyone has a user manual. So we almost are, we're running systems and we're following systems, but we are appreciative of our own unique human traits while we're running those systems. And so they'll have things like our Myers-Briggs, and they'll have how we like to communicate and how we don't like to communicate, and what our weaknesses are, and what we do on the weekends and that kind of stuff. So every single one of us has got that. And so mine's got my Myers-Briggs, so it's got ENTJ, and then it's got E means this, N means this, and it's like this means this, and it's like I'm not very good at this, and if you want to win my trust, do this, and stuff like if you want to lose my trust, this is what you do. And so every single person has got those, and I read those. So I read those probably more than everyone realizes that I read them, because you just constantly want to be engaging with people in the way that they will best work. So I feel like the more you know people, the more you understand what they want, their motivations, how they work, the more you can have fun with giving them the stuff that you know they will love, and almost being like, oh my goodness, I would hate this, but you're so good at it. And then they do the same to you. And then you're kind of, it's almost like a fun game that you kind of borrow each other's skills.
Yes. Yeah, that's super cool. I wonder how many CEOs do that. I think some of the audience watching this will be like, okay, Jodie, that's amazing. Thanks for selling us the dream. Like, this sounds great, but I mean, you must be built like that, because even in your outside of work or life outside of work, you are super disciplined. You can't compete in sport or on any level unless you are disciplined. So I'm looking at you and I can't relate, because I think you were just built like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I was just built like it. I think that I've worked to do it, but I think it's all to do with how you think about things and how you decide to think about things, about
Can you
beliefs
learn?
that you
Can
yeah,
you
for
learn
sure.
to
You
think
just
about that?
I think it all involves deciding what things mean. And a lot of it comes down to the belief that you hold without even realizing. And so one of them might be, everyone's got certain money beliefs that they don't even realize they've got. And it'll just be, so if I said to you, money is, what's the first word that comes to your mind without even thinking about it? Like money is bad. Money is greed. Money is for greedy people. Money is not for people like us. Money is freedom. Money is but it's like that with every single thing. Money, friendships, relationships, discipline.
True.
So going to the gym is boring, fun, it's all that kind of stuff. So I feel like once you're aware of the belief that you have, you can start to be like, is that belief serving me? And if someone holds the belief, oh, I could never be disciplined, then of course that's not serving them, and that is the thing that's going to make them fixed. Whereas if they were like, well, hang on, I have been disciplined because I achieved this thing before by being disciplined, so how about I just take this exact thing that I did to get my discipline for like completing my degree or whatever it was and apply that to my business, then yeah, of course you can build it. I don't think it happens by itself. I think I definitely have that might be shared with some founders listening or watching is the idea of enjoying hanging out at the extremes rather than in the middle. So being quite all or nothing about some things. So I would either have a sport and want to compete and train it all the time, or just not bother. Like if someone said, oh, do you want to come play paddle? I'd be like, well, am I going to be paddle world champion? So well then no, I don't want to. I'd rather do the sport that I'm going all in on, or I'd rather just chill out and do nothing. Like I don't really want to just do like hobbies. So I think that helps. And then I think also it's the concept of reward, and what is the reward for you? Because I really try and get it so that for me the effort is the reward. So the reward isn't the thing that you get at the end of doing it. The reward is just doing it. It's like, great, I get to train today, I get to squat today. It's not like, oh, I've hit a max, therefore that's the reward. It's like, no, I get to, every single rep is a reward. So it's figuring out what you're believing unconsciously, figuring out which ones are serving you, and then working out how you change those beliefs in a way that feels like believable, in a way that you can accept.
Thank you. Lots of food for thought there. We also challenge entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs will say, like, oh, process is the enemy of entrepreneurship. And we will go, well, if you look at your morning routine, like, process is the way you set your day up to start right. So it's no different from that. It's the foundation. So sometimes just making a switch.
Yeah, it's all, for me, it's all to do with open loops. And the fact that, like, I don't really own much stuff because I'm nomadic. So all my stuff fits into one suitcase, and I don't really have like stuff around. And if I get into an Airbnb and it's got, like knickknacks and little boxes that don't have anything in and stuff that doesn't make sense, I'll like put it all away just so I've got that clear space. And I think that when you've got stuff out, or when you've got things that are open loops, so something that is like, oh, I have to do that at some point in the future, your mind's looking at that, but it doesn't understand the concept of time. So so every time you walk past that garage that needs tidying, your mind's going, tidy the garage, tidy the garage, tidy the garage, chuck stuff away. And so that's just creating this mess in your head that then means you can't access that higher level of thinking. So I see systems in a similar way. It's like when you have the system in place that you know is working, that you trust, it frees up a space in your head to do the stuff that you're really meant to do, to use your superpowers. So that's kind of where I see it. So I don't think it costs creativity. I think it enables it. I think they have to be in place to be creative at all.
Absolutely. So if you are listening to this episode, please clean up your garage this year.
Yes.
It's Jodie's message.
Yes, please do.
A parting word of advice and the biggest lesson you ever learned.
Ooh, so I think it's a really good idea to have your principles, your life principles, documented and written down. I actually wrote, if you Googled ChatGPT prompts to create your principles, you would find an article that I wrote to help you create yours.
We will share it on the YouTube link.
Yeah. So I think that for me, that helps spending unnecessary time every single day making decisions, because I try and remove as many decisions as possible. And that's like what I wear, what I eat, what my routine looks like, where I set up with my laptop, all that kind of stuff. I try and remove it so I can pretty much just work and train and chill. But having principles as well helps you make decisions. So one of mine is, we've talked about being extreme, but one of mine is just extreme people get extreme results. So if I'm presented with do you want to come and play paddle for fun? And it's like, no, I want to hang out at the extremes of a sport, not in the middle, then it's a very easy no. And then you don't have to think about it. So I'd come up with your 5, I would have them written down, and I would look at them all the time and keep going with them over a long, long period, so that you don't fall into the trap that most entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs do, which is lose focus and go off track.
Great advice. Please systemize, please clean up your garage. Please re-examine your thought processes. And please download Jodie's ChatGPT prompts and figure out your 5 priorities. We will definitely share that in the link. Thank you so very much for your time. It's been an absolute inspiration to chat to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, amazing to chat. And if anyone's listened and anything resonates, then get in touch and let me know. I'd love to hear.